The Lakers have made their selection in the second round of the 2022 NBA Draft, and they have taken Max Christie out of Michigan State. You're watching the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. Happy draft night. I am your host, Chase Sr. This is why you subscribe. Lakers made their pick. We're breaking it down just a few minutes after it. And they got to number 35 after Rob Pelinka made good on his promise. All of that speculation about the Lakers buying a second-round pick, they ended up doing it, moving up to number 35 in this trade with the Orlando Magic. 28 second-round pick going to Orlando and some cash consideration. So basically nothing for the Lakers to give up for Max Christie. Now, Christie certainly has an interesting story. A lot of people were surprised that he was a one-and-done player. We actually worked with the guy in Patrick Seatman, who grew up in the Illinois area and played with Max Christie growing up. He was surprised, too, that he decided to leave Michigan State a little bit early. But the potential is certainly there for this guy to be a special player. A lanky wing with versatile defensive skills and long-term shooting upside. I say long-term shooting upside because the three-point numbers last year really just were okay. 9.5 points per game. He connected on a little less than 32% of his three-point opportunities, 3.5 rebounds, and assist and a half per night. This is a player who the Lakers can continue to try to develop over time, fine-tune some of his skills, plug him into their player development program. And what have we been talking about throughout the entire offseason for LA? You have to find a way to get an influx of youth talent onto this roster, and Max Christie can be that guy. He is only 19 years old after playing for Tom Izzo at Michigan State. And speaking of playing for Tom Izzo, that's why I kind of like the selection of Max Christie. He goes from being coached by one of the best coaches of all time, who requires his players to be mentally tough, and he goes to a Lakers team now led by Darvin Ham, who can also be somewhat tough. As for Christie's scouting report, long wing with the skills to become a multi-positional switching defensive player, especially along the wings. He is a selfless playmaker with some pretty solid vision. As I said, needs to work a little bit on his shot, but there's some upside there. Does lack great athleticism and some burst off the dribble. So those are some of the minuses that come with Max Christie. There isn't much explosion with that first step either. Doesn't really have a second gear on his drives, and without that great athleticism, kind of struggled to score around the rim at the college level. And I'm sure that will be an issue at the NBA level. Doesn't handle contact all that well, but really what you're looking for with this lean frame needs to get a little bit stronger. And with that strength, there's some filling out to do at 6'5", 189, and maybe once he does that and develops a three-point shot, he can be a decent 3-and-D guy for the purple and gold moving forward. So grade the pick of Max Christie to the Los Angeles Lakers at 35. I know a lot of you are just relieved that the Lakers even had a selection, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comment section right now. Now, we continue to break down the selection of Christie. We talked a little bit about some of the pluses, some of the minuses. I want to go back to some of the kind of arrow pointing up aspects of Christie's game. He's a capable shooter off the bounce. A lot of it, though, is pulling up from mid-range, using one or two dribbles, which is in the infancy of his development. I think someday he's going to develop maybe that sidestep dribble three that we see Jason Tatum have. If he's able to put that in his toolbox, that's a great aspect of your offensive game to have. He has certainly flashed a lot of potential, hitting some contested shots off the bounce, does have a little bit of a fadeaway game, and has a nice little spin move as well. And when I was looking at some other draft roundups from guys like John Hollinger, he had him ranked 47 overall. But our composite ranking here at Chat Sports had Max Christie 33rd overall. That was really the collection of some of the top mock drafts and some of the top big boards out there. Number 12 wing in this draft class. He certainly looks the part. He's also really long, too. So he's got that size that we talked about, but a 6'9" wingspan who moves really well for his size. He is not the son of Doug Christie. I'm sure a lot of people thought about that and were wondering that as well. We did talk about him, I think, last week here on the channel as a potential second-round target for the Lakers. He ends up going to L.A. with pick number 35. Another reminder to subscribe to the channel. Our overall goal to get to 50,000 subs. We're getting there because our content has been on fire. That's thanks to all of you. News, rumors, draft rumors, free agency starting a week from today. Our offseason coverage only getting started right here on the Lakers Report. So do the right thing. Do the smart thing. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button or plug in that link, youtube.com/LakersTV. As for where Christie could figure into the Lakers' plans, obviously with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, we'll see Russell Westbrook. Max Christie is a guy who might not be a year-one contributor, especially considering the fact that he looked a little bit inexperienced. He had some lapses in judgment and looked like a young player at Michigan State, but the hope is down the road he could develop into a pretty good knockdown shooter and maybe a solid defensive player. Max Christie getting drafted by LA. He's going to be throwing on this Lakers draft hat, and right now you can buy yours, find yours, and rock yours by going to chatsports.com/NBA draft hats. There's the flat brim style available. There's also the dad hat style available. All you have to do, plug in that link. It's chatsports.com/NBA draft hats. Sam Vecini on Max Christie, saying this in his scouting profile: every single NBA team would love to find wings with legitimate size and length who can make open jumpers, generate shots without the ball, and defend their position well enough to stay on the court in NBA settings. Christie has the upside to do that, but he's so far away that the team that takes him must be patient as he works through getting his frame to a place that allows him to see the court. And that's exactly what I said. Right away, I don't expect him to be a rotational player on the Lakers. I expect him over time to maybe develop into that 3-and-D guy, but right away, you cannot ask too much of Max Christie. The athletic part, he certainly has it. It seems real. His combine measurements were pretty good. He jumped 32 inches from a standstill and ripped off a 3:07 sprint, and the wingspan, again, did offset some disappointing height measurements. I guess a lot of people were expecting him to be a little bit bigger, but the wingspan can certainly make up for it. Season averages once more of 9 points per game, sub 32% from three on 123 three-point attempts, though. So this guy is not afraid to let it fly. 6.5 rebounds and an assist and a half per night as well. Before we hop on out of here, I want you to grade Max Christie as a prospect on a scale of 1 to 100. How good do you think this guy is? Scale it for me from 1 to 100. So to round things out, the Lakers, they buy that second-round pick that Rob Pelinka had talked about. They move up to number 35 in that trade with the Orlando Magic, and in doing so, with their only pick as of right now, because they don't have any more draft picks at their disposal, they go with Max Christie, a wing with some upside. If you made it this far in the video, greatly appreciate you for watching the show, but also, if you stuck around for the entire duration of the show, that means you're a real one. And we want to show you love for being a real one. So type real one in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching today's show, and keep it locked. Our coverage of the Lakers offseason, a monster one at that, only getting started. You don't want to miss anything.